guys, welcome back to Corey Taylor Builds. Today we are back. This is the 6.5 liter turbo diesel swapped iroc-z Camaro. If you can't tell by looking at it, there's been two previous videos on this. I know it's been a really long time. We got the engine in the car in the first video, and the second video we went ahead and did the exhaust work for the car. Not all of it, just up to the turbo here. This turbo is off a Cat engine, Caterpillar, and we have retrofit it to be able to work on this. Some of the exhaust pipe is laying around. This thing's a mess. It's been well over a year since the last time I even touched this vehicle. So I don't even know where to start. We're gonna look around at it. We're gonna see what we're gonna do. I'm gonna do a couple small things in this video. I'm hoping to do more in the next video. One big thing I want to ask you guys is, what do you want to see out of this? Obviously, we're swapping a 6.5 liter turbo diesel into an iroc-z. That's cool on its own. But a lot of people are really into these 6.2 and 6.5 Detroit diesels. And I want to know what you guys want to see done to this engine. I don't want to go crazy with it, but I want to do a decent amount. The stuff I know I'm going to do so far, first off, because we have to, I'm going to do a full custom intake manifold on this engine. Just with the height requirements of this engine bay to this engine, we cannot use the factory intake manifold. So we're going to go full custom with it. If you have a specific way you want that custom intake manifold to look, comment below, tell me what we want to see. We are going to make some sort of main girdle for this engine because they have a very bad habit of cracking where the main bolts go into the block. So some sort of main girdle. I don't know how I'm going to do it yet. I got to get down there and look around. That's going to get done, and we are going to port the cylinder heads on this engine. I normally port cylinder heads on a performance engine. This is a diesel. It's more or less limited by how much air can get into the engine and burn the fuel, and how much fuel the DS2, which I'm going to put a DS2 on this engine. I'm not going with a DB4s or DS4. Whatever the numbers are for those, it's going to get a DB2, DS2 mechanical injection pump on this. We're not going with the electronic, just because I want it to be more simple. So it's more limited by those two factors, and I want to get more air into it. That way it's limited by the fuel I can get into it and not the air. We're not going to do any sort of valve job to it. I'm going to do just what I can do in my garage. I don't want to take this to a machine shop. I want to do what you guys could be able to do to this engine in your own shop. So let me know down below what you want to see done to this. We're going to start off today with probably doing an oil pan. The oil pan does not fit the cross member that's in this engine versus the engine. So we're going to measure out, see what we need to modify, probably just take a notch out of the oil pan and try to get that mounted up today, and see if we can figure out anything else little we can do today. If not, I'll show you guys around the car. All right, for starters, you can tell we have it all torn apart in the front. Bumpers there, fenders are there. Suspension's all torn apart. This is all going to come off eventually. I want to tear it down, at least clean it up and paint it, possibly replace some of the components. This Cat turbo, it sits, this thing's way too heavy to handle with one hand. It sits about here, a little over this way more, right about in that area. You can watch the exhaust video if you want to see that. There's the headers. They're just stock headers that I actually ended up chopping and modifying just to make them work. Like I said, I don't want to do anything special. I'm trying to order as little parts as possible. We can actually port those a little bit, try to get a little more airflow out of them. They're not half bad from the factory, so that's why we're reusing those. There's the engine. As you can see, stock motor mounts do work. This is a stock 6.5 motor mount directly onto a stock V8 iroc Camaro motor mount. There's nothing different. The bolts aren't through, but they would go through. That's it. One thing that needs some work is this starter only has one bolt because I cannot put it straight. We are most definitely going to have to put a notch in the cross member. Luckily I have some thick steel. I can reinforce that once we take the notch out of it. That is a modification we're going to need to do. Bell housing and transmission are in there. There's no cross member for the transmission yet. I might be able to use a stock one. If I can't find a stock one cheap enough, I'll just make my own because I have enough steel here to do that. You can see we don't have a radiator in here, but it would sit about here. So we're going to sit with plenty of clearance between the two. I am going to run electric fans on this, so we don't need to worry about the mechanical fan. Where is alternator? And we do have a power steering pump. We're going to make brackets for those because I want them to sit. The way the turbo piping runs, they're going to need to sit in specific regions and stay out of the way. So we need to figure out how we're going to run that, keep it below the hood. That'll be a little bit of fun to figure out. And hopefully the power steering pump we can just mount right up to this. I think the water pump's good on this. Maybe we'll reuse it, maybe we won't. Depends on my budget here. See this suspension. One of the nice things about this car is there is no rust on it, underneath at least. There are some spots up top. You will be able to see that there was rust. I think this wheel well or the other wheel well, somebody had some Bondo in it. You can see that is a fuel filler delete. There is a fuel cell in there. I don't have the key to the trunk, but I can show you through here. As you can see, we have a roll cage in here with some horrible welds. These are all going to get redone. Someone did some really bad welds. You can kind of see how bad the weld is in this one, and then tried to cover it with Bondo to make it look nicer. And, well, you can make it look nicer, but you're not going to make it safer that way. So we're going to end up grinding these welds and the Bondo completely out of these in one of these videos and redoing this, because I'm not going to trust my life on these booger welds. See, we have sound deadening all over the floor, which is nice because I do like my ears while I'm driving. Got an old school type steering wheel. I haven't seen a style like this in a long time. We do have a factory gauge cluster that's just mounted in there to the factory dash, but it's all stripped. There's nothing in this dash. Someone just wanted to have a factory dash in it. And surprisingly, dash pad's in decent shape. I think the hole in that speaker is actually the only issue. Other than the corner, that's pretty normal. E-brake's still hooked up. This is actually going to be the driver's seat. You can't tell. This is a factory seat in this thing with just some black and yellow cover on it. Someone wanted to be Bumblebee. Get back there. You can see the fuel cell. I don't think there's a pump back there with it. I don't remember, but I don't think there is. Speaker holes, those are kind of funny looking. This is a 6-point cage. 1, 2, 3 on each side. We have, this is a Gen 4, this is a Gen 3 Camaro, this is the Gen 4 Camaro rear end with disc brakes, and it is a posi. Someone put this in here at some point. Unfortunately, I do not have a drive shaft for this vehicle, but I will need to have one made anyways, so either I'll make one myself temporarily, which I have done before. It's not the end of the world. People do that sometimes. Or I will have one custom made. You can see the fuel cell box isn't in the best shape on this thing. Whoever made that just kind of threw it together, which honestly, I don't really care. If it holds the fuel cell in, that works for me. So that's most of it for now. Maybe I can get under here and show you. If you watch the video of us rebuilding our Super T10, that is the transmission in there. That would be shown in the earlier videos too, if you want to go back and watch those. You can see the bottom end of our 6.5 right there as well. Some of you may have noticed I am wearing a Corey Taylor Build shirt here. These are for sale on my Shopify store, which will be listed down below in the description. There's this nice gray version, which I have been wearing this shirt for a very long time now. There's not a single hole in it, not a single rip. It's in really good condition. I use it to work on all my stuff, and it's been doing fantastic. So it's way better than I thought it would be, honestly, because most of the shirts I own rip probably the first day I work on anything. And these have been going for a long time, so they're very nice quality. There's this nice gray. There's also like a cobalt blue color, which the cobalt blue, there are only 25 of those shirts being sold. So if any of you want that, go grab it. They're a very limited edition, and once it's sold out of that color, I'm never selling them in that color again. 25 of those, that's it. There are also stickers, which I'll put here somewhere, what the stickers look like. So go ahead in the Shopify store. Every single purchase off that store, if you want to help me build this car, if you want stuff done to this car, if you want to see anything done, every single purchase off that store is going to go directly into this car. Nothing goes anywhere else. Nothing goes into my pocket. Everything goes towards making more videos for you guys. So go make a purchase. I'll send you your shirt. You're gonna love it. This is our first design. We're gonna have more designs later on, but it's pretty simple. Got the 300ZX on it, Corey Taylor builds. All right, now let's get into what we're gonna be doing to this car today. All right, here is the oil pan off of the 6.5 liter. Very obvious just from this slash in the front. They all have this, which is kind of funky looking. So this oil pan doesn't fit. I had to take it off in order to get the engine in the bay. Now, it ended up hitting right up here is where it would hit. So, you can kind of see that mark is from me trying to slide it in and it rubbing up on there. So somewhere in here, we need to make a notch and cut out a section. I don't think it's a lot. I'm pretty sure, we'll take some measurements quick, but I'm pretty sure this is fine the way it is. And this depth is fine the way it is. I think we just need to take some sort of notch out here and weld back in a plate or some sort just to get enough clearance. I don't think it'll be too much work to do, so we're gonna go take some measurements, see what we need to cut out. Cut out some chunks of metal. I think I'm gonna use thicker stuff than this. This is pretty thick, and I have some really, I think I have 1/8 inch thick, which is way more than we'll need, but then if anything hits it in the front, it'll be hitting 1/8 inch metal instead of this thin stuff, and we're never gonna get a hole in this thing. So that's one of the reasons I'm thinking about using the 1/8 inch on this, and it isn't gonna hurt, besides a little extra weight, which we're already doing a 6.5 diesel, so not the end of the world either way. So let's crawl under there, let's take some measurements. We're gonna measure down how far we can go to the cross member, just to make sure that's gonna work. We're gonna measure down from the pickup tube up to the flange, just to make sure that's gonna work. Because we need to know if that pickup tube's gonna hang too low, then we can't bring this up too much higher unless we modify that pickup tube, which is going another step further. So if we can do it simple enough to leave that pickup tube where it is, leave this where it is, and just modify this area, that's what I'd like to do. So we're gonna figure out what measurements we need, what we need to modify on this. I don't have like a paint marker, so we're just gonna scratch it in with a pencil, whatever we need to do. This is not a pencil, this is a frickin' tiny Phillips. We're gonna scratch it in with that, cut it out. This is gonna be a very just Mod Podge. We're just gonna get it done, make it work, look half nice. That's the goal. It does not need to look perfect. I don't care about perfection on this stuff. Okay, hopefully you guys can see what's happening down here. Got a really nice crappy tape measure. There's literally not even a name brand on this. It should work just fine though. So we're gonna measure. Our oil pan doesn't go all the way back to this, but we're gonna measure off of it. We're gonna give ourselves maybe 1/4 inch from that, from our cross member here, and that should get us an idea. So we're gonna go 11.5 inches is about what we have, and then we need probably about a 1/2 inch clearance from that. So we're gonna say 11 inches from the rear seal, the rear main seal. We're gonna say about 11 inches from the flange on that is the clearance we have. And then down from here, we'll say we got about 5 inches down. And width-wise, 8 inches. And then the only other measurement we need right now, I have this bar over here for. So we're gonna set this flat bar across our pickup here, measure down from the flange. And that's going to get us about 8.5 inches. So 8.5 inches is what we're looking for in depth for the flange. And if we come over here, we're looking at about 8.5, give or take. About 8.5. So if we're a hair below this cross member, that's not the best thing, but it's also not the worst thing if we can be a touch below this. It means if we drop this thing too low, we're going to scrape it. We can always modify that in the future. But if we can keep this
we're maybe going to be 8 3/4 because we need probably about a 1/4 inch clearance from this. And then this being 8 1/2, we can keep that pretty close. Plus, this engine is at a little bit of an angle, yet it is going to go up more, which will actually give us more clearance back here. So I'm okay with keeping the depth where it's at for now and just modifying this notch here for what we need. So we need at least, at most, 5 inches deep by 8 inches wide, and then 11 inches from the rear main seal flange to the front is what we're going to need. So we're going to go take those measurements on our oil pan and see what we get. All right, let's take some of these measurements and see what we got going on. Here, we are spot on there, 8 inches. They probably have that same spec on a lot of other GM vehicles. Here we are only at 4 1/2 inches, which is actually a 1/2 inch above our minimum. So we got plenty of clearance there. We can follow this line instead of having to go up at all. We don't have to drop this down to 5. We can keep it up at the 4 1/2, go over, and then we're going to come up. Yeah, we're at a foot here, so we're an inch over. So we're going to go from that rear flange, hold this still, right at that rear flange. We're going to go 11, which is going to be right about here. You get a paint marker in this shop. So we're just going to take a notch out right about there. All right, let's give this a shot. About what I wanted, right on top here. Cuts a little crooked up here, but that's fine. We can still make that work. All right, we got this plate made up, pretty snug fit. A little bit of a gap right there, but that should be pretty easy to fill. We got a piece of cardboard cut out. It's going to fit right about there. We're going to take that, cut a piece right here that'll match. All right, got that piece. Fits pretty well. A little bit of a hole there we're going to fill with weld. So that is about what we're going to end up doing. Is we're just going to weld that in like that, sharp angle. Try to get the weld as clean as possible. And that should do it, as long as it goes well. Let's get the oil pan cleaned up quick, and then we should be good to start welding. go ahead and get this welded up. All right, there is my half-assed weld job. Let's see if we can clean it up a little. All right, we got a small little patch we got to do over here. We missed the spot. Other than that, it's looking pretty good. Let me clean this up and seal it, and then we'll be all done. Alright, you can see it's not half bad in some spots. With this being a flux core welder, you can see there's a lot of splatter, and that also increases the chance of there being pinhole leaks in some spots. So what I like to do, because this is a non-pressure thing, I just take some silicone and smear it over the whole weld just to keep it sealed, just in case. There's a pretty good chance this one doesn't have any pinholes. Maybe right there it could. But yeah, flux core doesn't give you pretty welds, it just gives you welds. So put a bead of silicone over this, we know it's solid, and we can make sure it's sealed. Alright, we're going to get this engine lifted out of here, get the oil pan bolted on, and then we should be able to see if it's going to work out. Unfortunately, we can't get it in with it in the engine bay because there's not enough room, so we got to take the whole engine, lift it up, put the oil pan on, and then set it back down and see if it's going to fit. That should be up high enough in order for us to put the oil pan on. I gotta pump the starter off. Alright, there is our oil pan, which is still a very big oil pan for this engine bay. Let's see if we can wiggle it down in there. Alright, our oil pan is past the cross member.
That's good news. Now let's get our motor mounts lined up. Okay, engine's in there. We got some temporary motor mount bolts in. Actually got it sitting at about the right angle that the engine's going to sit at right now. So we got a better idea down there about how low we're hanging. Everything looks pretty good. You can see from here that we do have some clearance from the cross member, which is perfect. A little extra, which is what we initially wanted. So let's get under there and take a peek. All right, you get an idea there. We're hanging a little lower than I wanted to. I guess we didn't measure enough. However, that's not horrible. We're maybe about an inch below, if that, which that is going to be the lowest point on the car, so we might have to modify that in the future. Scratch that, we are definitely going to modify that in the future. However, you can see we have clearance there, and we have clearance on top there. We have plenty of clearance from the cross member. We're not touching anywhere. So that little notch is perfect. That gets us exactly where we need to go. With the engine, transmission's bolted up. Well, not bolted up. We need to make a cross member yet. However, that is sitting perfectly. I did just pick up an injection pump for this thing too. So we have a mechanical DB2 injection pump. That's ready to go on whenever we're ready. So this thing should be getting together and possibly be running fairly soon. I just need to get a flywheel. Once I get the flywheel and some head gaskets, this engine can get bolted together and run technically. I'm going to do a couple other things before it's obviously running, but that's all I need is a flywheel and head gaskets. The flywheel is about 150 bucks, and the head gaskets and other gaskets I need are around 150 bucks for a gasket kit. So we'll get to work on that next. All right, thank you guys for sticking around for the video. We got the engine back in the car with an oil pan on it, which is a very big step because that means the engine can be completely sealed up now and actually sit in the car. I need to pull it out one more time in order to do the starter. However, next time I pull it out, I'm hoping to be able to make the main grill for the engine. So we're going to try to get that on a stand, which I don't have an open stand right now, but I guess I'll have to get one. So thank you guys for watching. Head over to the store if you get the chance, and subscribe if you haven't already. Have a good day.